What was your degree in from Tennessee State?
Engineering.
Were you able to use it here?
When I graduated from Tennessee State in 1954, TVA wasn't hiring black engineers. Union Carbide at Oak Ridge was not hiring black engineers. I worked before I graduated and after I graduated with McKissick and McKissick Architects in Nashville. I worked with them until July of '54, and I came back to Alcoa to begin the construction business. In December '54, I went to the military for 2 years. Came back to Alcoa to pursue the construction business and also hopefully get an engineering job. 56, blacks still were not being hired at Alcoa, Oak Ridge, nor TVA. I went to all of these seeking employment. Finally left here in 50. Well, I went back to school in '59 to get a master's in business under the GI Bill. Had 3 children, a wife. It was too laborious. The cost, the benefits did not meet our needs. So I left school, came back to Alcoa, went to New Jersey in 1959. I worked there as a brick mason until I was hired by the Department of the Army at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. Fort Monmouth was where I spent my military time after basic training. 50, what did I say, 54, 55, 56, okay. I went back to New Jersey and did get a job with the Corps of Engineers, Department of the Army, as an estimating engineer. I stayed there for 3 years and finally went with the Corps of Engineers in Philadelphia. And it was there that this was the first time I had been graded as an engineer. And that was in '63. We lived in New Jersey. I commuted to Philadelphia for 3+ years. And Ben Brown, my brother-in-law, called and said that TVA was ready to hire. TVA was ready to hire a black engineer. And they would pay, and they did, paid my moving expenses to come back to.
TVA hired you?
Mm-hmm. They hired me as a design engineer.
What year?
'66.
Okay.
I stayed with them about a year before I had an offer from Oak Ridge, Union Carbide. I went there in '67 as an engineer, again doing estimating. And I began to recruit and do other kinds of activities for Union Carbide, and they began to. You can't tell all the story, but they began to give me opportunities to advance.
Was this affirmative action?
Yes, definitely. At the time, at Union Carbide, of course, there was an affirmative action coordinator who was a good friend, and the company had a number of suits by blacks. And when I started working in estimating, they decided that, well, my supervisor anyway, decided that our department didn't need any suits. So they gave me, but he admitted to me that they were not paying me as much as
He told
the
me.
white, oh yes. But he was doing what he could to get the salaries almost equal. Yes, he did. So I stayed there in a supervisory capacity. It was the intention of the engineering management to get me into a department head job. They at one point in time I managed better than 30 people.
With the pay?
No. No. But the idea was to justify promotions toward the department head thing. I chose, and I had this conversation with my with the head of engineering. I could either go get my license registration with the state, or at the time I was going to Vanderbilt for the school of the seminary. Okay, so he said, "Well, what do you want to do? You want to be an engineer? You want to be a minister?" So I said, I want to be a minister, really. So I went to Vanderbilt for 2 years, every week for a certain period of time, for a special study, a program that was funded by the Lilly Foundation, and it was under the direction of Kelly Miller Smith Sr. It was a credit course, but I didn't earn a degree. We did that for 2 years, as I said, while working at Oak Ridge.
What year?
This was in 60, well, no, this was in 70, 78, something like that.
After integration had hit.
Oh, yeah. This is during the time that Riggins Earl was at St. John.
Okay.
Remember that?
I did.
He and Kelly were good friends. So he got me connected with that. So I finished that 2 years at Vanderbilt. Still working at Oak Ridge. But I had forfeited, if you would say so, my possibility of being the first black department head.
Because you wanted to be a minister?
Yes, that didn't really bother me. So they my supervisor was one who tried to get my pay on an equal basis with the white supervisors who were parallel in responsibility to what I was doing. I don't think it ever happened, but I wasn't crying. I was done. It was okay. So I worked there until 1993 and retired.
Oh, you retired in 93?
93.
When did your political career start?
Okay. It started when I was in high school. Because we saw that Hall was not being treated fairly. We would get desks that had been scratched and cut out from the Alcoa High School. We didn't have courses. In 1953, before we graduated, we started Jay White, Freddie McGarity, Freddie Henderson, Fred Stewart, myself, and two or three others, started an alumni association, Hall Alumni Association. We went to Goddard with the complaint that our curriculum was not sufficient for when I went to college. I had not had a good algebra course, had not had a good physics course, as you know. And so I was behind those guys from Memphis and Nashville and what have you. So we went to Goddard with a complaint that we needed a good math course, we needed a foreign language. And Goddard, if you remember him, V.F. Goddard, said, well, in the library, you know, books, he said, well, nobody ever asked for this before. So we have the money, and next year they did. Miss Harris started teaching French. I think it's French.
So because no one asked for it,
that's what he said. That's what he said. So it happened to some level after that. But this, you asked, when did my political ambition start? It started then because I was angry. And I said, something needs to be done. And so when I left here and came back, we had a city manager who controlled the city and the schools. And the teachers and people who worked for the city were afraid to become involved in political activity. So I decided I was going to run for the... What happened, the city commission asked the state legislature to increase the size of the commission from 3 to 5, okay? So we had 2 slots. So a white female and myself ran along with other white males, and it was nasty.
Talk about it. Tell me about it.
Well,
how was it nasty?
It was nasty in the sense that they tried to get all the dirty stuff. They tried to get dirty stuff on me. So it happened one day they went to Leo Howard's repair shop and asked Leo, this is, I won't call the opponent's name, but they asked Mr. Howard, what can you tell us about this Stone Carr? And my dad was sitting there, and Leo said, there's his dad, ask him. They left. But they had what was her name? The white female, and I can't think of her name right now. But they had us going together and all this kinds of stuff. Yeah. But
work then, still working now, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it didn't work. It didn't work. She won and I won. We won.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. She had the highest vote. I had the second highest vote. Yeah. But what happened, the Democratic Party said to me that, you know, this is not the time for you to do this. You're going to take votes away from, you know, the white candidate. I said, if not now, when? If not me, who? Right. And so I was basically run as an independent.
Okay.
And Bill Thompson, and others, and then this was really a grassroots thing, and people in the community really got together, and
we stood together more then than we do now.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I think it's now we're further from the time when you had to do certain things to survive or to make it. Now many of us think we're free, and we're nonchalant, unconcerned, and not committed to the kinds of things that were necessary back then. So
I don't understand complacency. Do you?
Yeah, only to the extent, I guess, that people become satisfied with what they have.
Even with you not being as active as you were, say, from your high school, during your political career, were you complacent?
Couldn't have been. Could not have been.
Could not have been.
Could not have been complacent. You see, let me go back to the city manager at the time. You remember Ross Walker?
Right.
Ross Walker was the boss.
And he said he was the boss.
He was the boss.
Yeah.
We got into a situation where, during the campaign, where the policeman, I forget the chief's name.
Lively?
No, it wasn't Lively. Another guy, but they sprayed Jerome Harvey with mace one day out here. They at that time, of course, there was a lot more opposition to black guys and white girls, you know, and that was going on at the time. And this was what they had against Jerome. And so I had Ross Walker to bring the chief to my house. And I told the chief that if it ever happened again, and Ross Walker, that we would be out on the streets, okay? The chief, and of course, one of the campaign issues was get rid of Ross Walker, okay?
Okay.
Both myself and the white female. We won. We got rid of Ross Walker.
Okay.
Got rid of Ross Walker. Established a school board. Fred Brown was the first black on the Alco school board. The chief, of course, I don't know how long he stayed. He died as the chief. I can't think of his name.
Bob Carroll?
No, it wasn't Bob Carroll. It was on the other. I can't think of his name. But anyway, you know, he had this thing. There used to be a bootlegger down on this street, down the end of this street.
On this street?
On this street.
Okay.
And they raided her one night and told her that I had sent them.
I remember.
Okay, so then the word got out that, and Billy Thompson is dead now, that they were going to burn my house down. They were going to get me because they arrested him. But anyway, that never happened. Of course, I went to his mother and told him, you know, tell him he better get things straight. But anyway, those were some of the...
Things always happened in this community. People always thought that things were fine. But there were always things
some people
like
thought that.
But there were always things like that happening in this community. One black kill another black, nothing was ever done. But if I remember when a young black man shot and killed a police officer and shut this community down. I remember that.
Shut it down to what extent in terms of blacks going in and hiding?
Yes.
But it was full of white folks.
It was full of white folks, from wall to wall, with guns and
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, okay.
I remember one time, and I know that we're going to take care of this with a little bit of editing, but I remember one time when you were our interim minister at Bethel, and I don't remember how long you served.
2 years.
Okay. But one of your sermons was about being the only one. And you were telling the parishioners, the congregation, that some think that being the only one on the job or in the school is a good thing. That never was. I mean, who do you turn to when you're the only black being in it? Because very few people hire more than one.
Yeah.
You know, and there would be years you would have to go before another one would come in. I remember we did an interview the other night where a young woman said that when they saw a black person take the plane, all the blacks on the plane wanted to serve that one black. You know, blacks didn't fly either. So I know in some of these things you were the only on the commission. You were the only one. Talk to me about that. Tell me, who did you turn to?
Well, I had, it so happened that we had two Democrats, two Republicans, and myself on the commission. And as I said, I considered myself an independent. But the Democrats were much more, the lady who won when I ran, and the mayor, Lambden, were Democrats, and they were very friendly. They were very supportive. They were, supportive. Being alone didn't bother me too much, except that I had many experiences where I would have suggestions for change, but they would ignore them, and then one of them would come back with the same thing, and it was okay. But being alone, there was a lot of pressure. I was bleeding internally toward the end of my first year. I was up 3 years, second year. And the doctor told me to resign because there was too much pressure.
Yeah.
At the time, I had 2 votes to be the mayor. Okay,
right.
They wanted me to be the mayor, the 2 Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
But the doctor told me that, you can't take that. Dr. What was his name? He's dead now. But anyway, being alone was not something that I was not used to.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you went to school, you were basically alone. I was, because I didn't spend a lot of time socializing, fraternizing, because I knew I had to study hard. So being alone was not unusual for me, and still isn't, in a sense.
It's 2008.
Huh?
We're 3 days from possibly electing an African American. 1, do we still need affirmative action? And 2, how far have we come?
Affirmative action, and I think this is one of the fears that many people, especially Southerners, have, that kind of thing will happen. There are those who do not feel, well, there are a lot of people who are in office now, and they're talking about on the national level and other, who feel like that, you people are free now. You don't need any more leg ups kind of thing. When I worked at Oak Ridge, I worked, as I said, with the affirmative action. I headed the affirmative action activity within the engineering department. The director of engineering said to me that whenever anybody comes to you with a complaint, bring it to me. We'll work it out. He told my group that I was finally put head of.
Mm-hmm.
He told them, he told me, if you have any problems with anyone, let me know, and they'll go out the gate. And so, I had problems, but I didn't go to him and tell him, because it was, jealousy and these kinds of things. Affirmative action, and Colin Powell, I think, is a good example of that, who recognized the fact that he was able to get where he was because of that. I recognize that fact. Here's the difference to me. Okay, you remember back in 1960, was it 63, when the study was made about the black family?
Mm-hmm.
What was the guy's name? From New York.
About the Bell's curve.
Huh?
Was it the Bell's curve?
No, well, it wasn't the Bell's curve. It was a study that Johnson commissioned.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think of the guy who did the study. Okay, I have a copy of that at the house. But the study was basically dealing with the black family. Okay, and the fact that the black family was falling apart, and we needed to do certain things, and so you come up with these social programs that may not have been good, in the sense that I think a lot of people think that the government was indebted to them, not to give them a fair shake, but to give them, and this is a problem, a situation that I guess we've faced, and we need to face that as a people. And I guess Obama has hit some of this and hadn't been very well accepted. And that is that we as people have to develop some pride and some self-reliance, and not depend on others to always give us a handout. Affirmative action. That is something that will not, because Johnson was a white man, and he authorized the study, and he was able to get the Congress, the Senate, to go along with him. You could not get that done now.
Even with Obama becoming president.
No, I don't believe so. I really don't believe so. I don't believe that Obama would step out even to do that. There are other ways of doing it.
Absolutely.
And so I don't think that he would. I don't think we'll get back into that kind of thing. Now, let's look at another point. We had affirmative action at Oak Ridge. We had it at TVA. I remember meetings that we had with the president, Roger Hibbs, dealing with affirmative action. And I would ask Roger, how do you, from where you sit as president of Union Carbide, how do you get these redneck managers that do the hiring to accept the fact that this thing should work? This is where the problem was. It was, we would go out, Jim Williams, I don't know if you remember Jim.
Yes.
And I would go out, and others would go out recruiting, bring in, blacks and what have you. And of course we had to send the application down the line, and when it got to a certain point, it was up to the supervisor to decide. And these were guys out of the country, and they didn't want any black folks in there. And so they gave them that choice. Oh, sure. The supervisor almost always has the choice of deciding who he wants and who he doesn't want, unless there's some rebuttal or some proof, that this guy's really being prejudiced. Yeah. But that was not done too much.
Do you remember the year?
Yeah, all during the time from 67 to, 67 to, when did we cut out get away from affirmative action there? Probably in the 70s, somewhere in the 70s, it lost its steam.
Don't you think that affirmative action was set up to fail?
Yeah, probably. We had a few, and I remember one lady who was a good friend, and they gave her a promotion, and they put her into a job that she had no knowledge of, to fail.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to think of her name, but yeah, it was intended.
Absolutely.
That it would not work.
One of the things that we found out while we were out there and we were working with women's organization was one of the main reasons that they went after Anita Hill is because she put the clause in the EEOC document that the company, that if you filed a discrimination suit, you had to prove that they intended to discriminate. She still believes that's the reason they went to get her. But she believed. So did they sell you on the fact that they were really trying to do the right thing, or were you just drawing a salary, or were you content with what they were doing?
When I was interviewed for the job in engineering at Oak Ridge, Leo Waters, who was the manager of the group that I was going into, interviewed me. He was with others, and he said to me, he said, "Now, what would you do if somebody called you a nigger?"
Yeah.
He wanted me to say the kind of thing that I mean, what he wanted basically was that I would take the responsibility for that. I would back away or I would get mad or this kind of thing. So I said, I feel sorry for them, and that happened. That happened. That
They would call you nigger on the job.
Well, not call me a nigger as such, but I remember when I was in New Jersey working for the Department of the Army, we had a major there, and one day it was raining real hard, and he didn't know that I was in the office. It's raining. What is it? Something nigger babies, and so somebody told him that I hurt him, and I was going to file a complaint. He came and apologized. Well, so what? I was in another meeting in Oak Ridge, and we were dealing with contracts, and this lawyer who handled contracts, and I was we were all in the meeting, and he said, what was the word he used? Something about niggas. But I guess what you do is, and this is what I try to tell my grandchildren, you got to know who you are. Don't let somebody else define who you are. And so and that's been necessary. Know who you are. And regardless of what other people say, you feel sorry for them. Well, and of course, the word nigger means various things to various people. But I never felt it was an insult to me.
The word?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I felt like I was, well, first of all, when you know the meaning of the word.
Absolutely.
And you know that you don't have that kind of a character or commitment, you go ahead.
Right.
Okay. Now, you remember when we were well, maybe you don't. I'm a little older than you.
A tad.
We walked from Oakfield to Hall, right? And the white kids walked from Hall. They were living here and over to Bassel.
Right.
And they would walk on the other side of Hall Road, and we would walk on this side of Hall Road. And there was always that confrontation, calling names and throwing rocks and all that kind of stuff.
I had forgotten about that until Miss Ferguson had told me about it. I had forgotten completely about it. I'd forgotten about Basil.
No, no, okay. So you really okay at that stage of life you don't have the same kind of restraint or character, personality as you supposedly develop later in life. Okay, then it was fight.
Right.
Call me a nigga, and call you something else. But anyway, I got over that.
Yeah.
I got over that.
Right. One of the way when we had the pleasure or whatever it is you want to call it to work at DVA, it was hard. It never got easy, and you did get called nigger. So with your man going into the White House. And I think he's going. I'm so sure that he's going. Do you think that our expectations are too high for him? Or is there, he cannot do, we're broke. He can't do anything of what he says that he's going to do. Tell me, what's going to happen?
Well, I think we need to be realistic. You know, the president does have certain authority. He can make certain things happen. But the Congress and the Senate are the basic controlling factors. If he gets a Democratic Congress and a Democratic Senate, he'll be able to do more things. I don't really believe that he, and you notice there hadn't been much said about affirmative action or blacks or, this kind. I think he's more, I really think that he's more concerned about America than he is about a particular group. I really do.
He doesn't know, why would he protect Africa? Why would he protect one group? Because he's not the president of just blacks.
Right.
But don't you think that we as a group of people are voting for him because of that?
Probably so, but yeah, sure. But you heard him say, well, there are going to be certain emphasis put upon us improving our own lot. There is going to have to be some help from the government, but I don't believe that he's going to be overly influential in trying to get you people
Okay.
free.
Okay. Very good.
I think he's, there's so many things so many issues that we have to deal with as a nation.
Right.
That I think it's going to have to be a pulling everybody along to correct our situation. So I don't really, and I won't be let down. If he doesn't step out there and say we're going to have affirmative action, we're going to have this, I think it would probably defeat his ability to do other things.
Or they'll impeach it.
Yeah.
But we as a people must know that, because I think that contrary to what people believe, in the 60s, we worked at integration. I mean, our parents worked at it, so we could have it. But I don't see people working for. There are blacks that don't want affirmative action. So what do we do?
Is that surprising? When the children of Israel left Egypt, what did they say to Moses? He just brought us out of this wilderness for us to die. He could have left us in Egypt. When the Emancipation Proclamation, or whenever, and Ron Bennett doesn't think that was the thing that freed you folks. But whenever blacks were freed, some of them didn't want to go free. There are still,
they went back to the plantations.
Yes. So there are still people who feel that the best thing is the easy thing, or the best thing is when somebody is giving you something or looking out for you. We're going to have to develop a sense of responsibility, and you don't do that, you know. I'm terrible with names. Tough Love. He wrote this book on tough love.
Cosby.
No.
Before you.
No, he's a conservative. From out west. So, but anyway, there is such a thing as tough love. I cannot give my children everything they ask for and expect them to develop the best character. They have to learn to work. And that should not be a stigma kind of thing or a thing we're afraid of. The only problem I see is coming back to how do you get the opportunity to work?
Right.
How do you get accepted? Okay. So these are the kinds of things that we really need to work on. We need to get more education. And I tell my granddaughter, you know, she was over at Merva College for 1 year. You should have stayed there. You know, she's out looking for a job now. It makes a difference.
These kids nowadays got to have at least 4 years.
Yeah.
We interviewed Margie Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
She was saying that the 4 years that she got still wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. And after she went beyond the 4 years, it still wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. One of the things that they're getting ready to do around Obama becoming president at Highlander, I don't know if you know about Highlander, they're going to do the Southern Strategy, and they're trying to get people involved from different communities. Mm-hmm. And I know that you're overtaxed and tired and don't want to, but you got to pay it forward, Pastor Carr.
You got to what?
You've got to pay it forward. I mean, even here, listening to what I can't even in my mind decide how we're going to use what you said here today. But you've got to. There are young kids in this community that don't even know half of what you've done.
Oh, sure.
But that we've got to make our kids respectful of the seniors, and the seniors have to pay it forward. Have to get. I mean,
So there needs to be an interaction. Huh?
Absolutely. I mean, now there is no one that's walked this community that was more conservative than your father. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And see, white people think that all blacks got their hand out. That's not true. So how do you answer? How do you speak to that? What do you think about that?
Let me ask you a question. You use the word conservative. What is your understanding of your?
My understanding of a conservative is what most whites think, is that conservatives don't take anything. Conservatives think that anything from the government is a handout. And that's not, they don't want anything like that.
Okay. So a conservative basically is one who manages his or her own
Yes. Life. Yes.
resources. And, okay, that's okay.
Tell me what your idea of conservative
Well,
is.
of course, the application gets to be very broad now. You know?
Right.
If you oppose affirmative action, if you would, that's the stand that conservatives should take. If you oppose abortion, that's the stand that conservatives should take. Conservatives should take, and we could go into that quite a while. But I think basically what you're saying is, it's my understanding, it's the ability to control, to manage your situation, financially as well as other.
I don't think it can be done. You know, how they ridicule community organizing. Basically, you were a community organizer in your high school, at your high school. They call Obama a socialist. You're a socialist, aren't you?
So?
Is that a bad thing?
Well, it depends. Again, you know, every word has
Absolutely.
various meanings. Okay, Obama has talked about taxing those above a certain income level, and McCain says this is socialism. You're going to spread the wealth around. Okay, I heard McCain, I think he was in Pennsylvania, and he was saying, "I want everybody to be wealthy."
Yeah.
That's not possible.
No.
That's not possible. You know. But he would come back and he would say, Obama would say anything to get elected. Well, why would anybody say that? You know, going to make everybody wealthy? That you know, there's something missing.
I know.
I mean, to even make a statement like that, because poor people make wealthy people wealthy. If you don't have poor people,
You wouldn't be wealthy.
you wouldn't have any wealthy people.
That's right. That's right.
So, you know, to make a statement like that really made me question, you know, what's going on. But
I think the thing that got me and that has always gotten me, I lived through this is making me question everything that I've read. I lived through the Reagan era. I was laid off in the Reagan era. I remember the first thing that Reagan did when he went in was pull the switch on Social Security people and said, when he got ready, they told him, "You can't do this." He said, "We can do this because when we put the switch back on and the checks start going forward, most of them will be dead." But now, in 2008, Reagan is the savior of the nation. But I lived it. I tell people all the time, I know what you tell me communism is. You tell me one thing, but you show me another. This is not my interview. This is yours. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I think that it's going to be very difficult to get a nation. Well, first of all, I was reading something maybe today about the fact of, okay, we have Democrats and we have Republicans and we have other kinds of ideas, but we're separated in so many ways. Republicans don't like Democrats, Democrats don't like Republicans, conservatives don't like, you know, blah, 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 and you go right on down. Poor people don't like rich people don't like poor people. Well, that's maybe
Rich people don't care.
Maybe
Rich people could care less whether you like them or not. They really don't dislike you.
But I guess what I'm saying is it's not a matter of like. It's a matter of providing rich people. Well, you've got, again, go back to my original statement, you've got to have poor people to make rich people.
Right.
And rich people do not want all people to be rich.
That's right.
Now, Reagan was the trickle-down guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he believed in making the wealthy wealthier, and they would take care of you that are poor. No, but that was my understanding of his philosophy of government. And again, you know, the press, and this is something that we need to recognize, and that is the influence of the media on our minds, on our situation. Right. Okay. And so my wife spends a lot of time, listening to the news reports. Mm-hmm. I can't stand it.
I can't either.
She can sit there for hours and listen to that. I said, all they're doing is conditioning your mind.
That's right.
You know, get away from it.
That's
Give
right.
it up.
That's right.
So it's a kind of thing, again, but one of the things, and this is the reason I guess, I don't guess, but I appreciate what you're doing, is we have not had the ability of the time to write, to record, to document, and that's terrible.
That's
terrible.
Horrible.
Okay.
That is horrible.
And so the reading thing, you know, to see the white kids go to the library and they have the books and they do this reading and so forth, but our kids don't do it.
I still believe, and I learned this when we had the Hall Oldfield group. They want to, but they're not up to par. At some point they've been ridiculed because they can't keep up. They don't have everything that some of the others have, so they back away. You have to, what we learned is, you've got to build up their confidence before you can introduce them to something else. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we had, and I had